Now, I'm making this video because as I was on Malice Rebel's video about how Russia has recently passed this bill where they will not hold a gay pride parade for at least 100 years, someone was saying about how anyone that is opposed to gay rights is not a communist at all. And I did not say whether or not people have the right to be gay in the sense they have the right to have sexual relationships however they so choose. What I said was that the modern gay movement is a nationalist movement, so yes, it is revisionism. It is revisionism to defend homosexuality as we know it today, because it is a nationalist identity. When you say you're gay, what you're saying is you're this entity. You are part of this group, and therefore that is nationalism. And since it's nationalism, it is contrary to communist philosophy. So why you can say that the gay community, the gay identity is a weapon against capitalism. It is a necessary ally. But to suggest that we as communists should accept this separation of identity is ridiculous. It's ludicrous to think that we as communists should allow people to distinguish themselves based off race, creed, or gender identity, sexual identity, etc. There is only people. And people have skills, people have personalities. Some personalities and some skills are more desirable than others. But otherwise, people are not an identity. People are not a group. They are only a means unto an end. They are an instrument of the will of a greater good. And that is something that many revisionists are not willing to accept. And because of that, these revisionists get angry with me and call me a red fascist, which, you know, it's going to happen. It's going to happen in anything. And, you know, I can't say I'm not guilty of it myself, the whole not a true Scotsman fallacy. But here I think it's a bit misleading. This idea that you cannot possibly be a communist just because you oppose gay rights. No, there's more to it than that. If that were the case, we could say that about anything at all. You know, that's the problem I have with ideologues. It's not the fact that they have that strong ideology. It's that one issue. Just, if you have one thing you disagree with someone on, you're not that thing. You know, and you can say that that's your issue, that means something to you, and that you don't like somebody else because they're in disagreement, even in the opposite direction or whatever, of you on that issue. Like moderators, I will not befriend or have anything to do with people that defend moderators. Period. You do not have to agree with me on it 100%. But you do have to agree on some level that moderators are indeed a problem and we need to do something about that. If you do not agree with me on that, I want nothing to do with you. However, does that stop you from being a communist because you disagree with me on moderators? In some ways, yes, it does, but not in the ways you might think. I'm not going to write you off as not being a communist right away just because you disagree with me on moderators. What I am going to do is I'm going to break that philosophy down. Why you feel the need to defend moderators, but also claim to be a communist when clearly there's a class hierarchy there. If there are moderators up here commanding people at the bottom, how can you call yourself a communist who wants a classless society? Do you think that somehow moderators are justified in their hierarchy? That somehow their authority is for the stance of the greater good? That somehow we would be more bourgeoisie without moderators moderating forums? Or is it because you believe that class hierarchy is okay just as long as it isn't privatized capital? Which even then, that still would not excuse moderators, because moderators are not government entities. They are not government-hired programs. They are, indeed, private individuals. Just as everyone loves to say, oh, a forum is a private institution, they can do what they want. Well, then as communists, why are you okay with moderators? And this question needs to be severely asked on RevLeft and SovietEmpire.com, and to a lesser extent Reddit, because, you know, these places claim to be leftist institutions, and yet they're perfectly fine with that class warfare. So what the fuck? And that is a reasonable concern. That's a reasonable question. And you, as a communist, have to challenge yourself and ask yourself why indeed you hold these beliefs to be true and then claim to be this thing that contradict that. It's all about consistency. It's consistency in your own personal belief. If there's no consistency in your internal monologue, there's not going to be any consistency externally, and you can't expect people to take you seriously. Everything I believe, there is a reason for it. I just do not have the time to explain all of it. And gay rights is one of those things. I just don't have the time to explain why gay rights is contrary to the communist movement. And if I were to go into it, people would just claim I'm homophobic because people are short-minded twats. They do not want to think about the issue. They do not want to listen to what other people have to say. They just want to bash and humiliate and degrade and censor. That's why we have moderators as we do today, and that's why we have these problems, because people are evil. And I'm not going to busy myself and consume my time with trying to convince you why homosexuality is contrary to a communist revolution when I got bigger things to worry about. Moderators. As long as there's moderators, I'm never going to be able to give you my 100%. I'm never going to be able to explain these things to you in a relatively free and peaceful environment. I'm never going to be able to give you what you deserve, and you give me what I deserve, so long as there's moderators to come between it. So, I'm going to focus on moderators. Not gays, not revisionism, not red fascism, none of that. So, if a gay person wants to claim to be communist, even though I severely believe that homosexuality is opposed to communism, if a pro-homosexual heterosexual wants to defend the LGBT and claim to be a communist, you go right ahead. But I do not believe that is real communism. And just as you believe I'm not a real communist, simply because I oppose gay rights. And I think it's jumping a bit far to say red fascism, because there's a clear difference between not liking gays and believing in the class hierarchy system. You know, I do not believe that I am somehow superior to other people based off my race, my religion, or any identity. That's the thing. I do not know how to say that anymore. The fact is, they're the ones giving themselves the identity. I am not. I'm not saying that gays are inferior, because there's no such thing as gay people. There is only such thing as gay sex. Homosexuality is a verb, not a noun. They're turning it into a noun, and therefore they're the ones taking away their own rights by clinging to that noun as opposed to making it a verb. Homosexuality is a type of sex. In my opinion, it's any sex that does not result in procreation. To their opinion, it might be more specific as gender-on-gender intercourse. Whatever you want to define it as, it should primarily be a verb, not a noun. But they've turned it into a noun, and therefore now they want to bitch when, things don't go their way, and their identity politics lose. Well, that's what happens when you play that card. That's what happens when you play the game of class hierarchy. That's why we shouldn't have class hierarchy. And that's why we should not cling to whatever shit that we define ourselves by. We should not cling to our religions and our race and our culture and our national origins, because that's what's going to happen every single time. And, I doubt the guy that was bashing me for it's going to listen. I doubt the naysayers are going to listen. They're probably not. What I say is going to go one ear and out the other. They're not even going to fucking bother. Even though I explained this all in a very soft-spoken manner, they're just going to type away and troll my page like they always do. But to my fans out there, the positive ones, not the nega fans, I just figured I would let that out there. And you might disagree with me on that. You might disagree with me that homosexuals have no place in a communist revolution. And you know what? I'm fine with that. You can go ahead and believe that. And, we're going to disagree. That's just human nature. And the main point is we should worry about the evils that are killing us. The ones that we know that we're not going to die in peace unless we do something about them. And I'm sure you feel that way about something too. Maybe it's not specifically moderators, but if you know that feeling, if you empathize with that, then at least see where I'm coming from and why I do not pay much attention to the drama of revisionism and, calling someone out on not being a real communist or some shit like that. I believe it. I believe many people are not real communists. But I got bigger things to worry about. It's just that simple. In a lot of ways, to lighten the mood, I compare it to the Space Marines. All of us communists are just Space Marines. And we are trying to stick to our codex astartes as best we can. And the Stalinists and the Maoists and the Marxist-Leninists and even the Trotskyists are all different chapters of the Space Marines. And we're all pointing at each other, yelling heresy, because that is contrary to the Codex Astartes, and it is not loyal to the Emperor, and, things like that. If you know Warhammer 40k, you'd get the comparison. I'm not going to draw lines between which branch of communism is like which chapter and things, but essentially, that's how it looks to me. It looks to me like every sort of denomination of communism has become like a chapter of the Space Marines. And you know what the scary thing is? That's too much like religion for comfort. As much as communism has opposed religion because of those very things, and it has, caused so many wars and so much brutality, and has allowed capitalism to furnace and grow based off those squabbles and petty differences that cause them to cater to capitalism so that they can benefit because, my version of the truth is better than your version. My God is better than your God. Or at least my interpretation, because that's the thing. Catholics, Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, everything. They all believe in the same God. They just believe in it differently. It has different tenets, it has different rituals, it has different stories attached, it has different sacraments, but deep down it's the same God. And I would think for the most part the same morals. Maybe there are a few differences. Some Christian denominations are a little more liberal than others. Some Christian denominations see certain sins as much more prevalent and dangerous than others. And those things are what you should be getting upset about, not the stupid shit. And that's the problem with us communists. We're getting upset about the stupid shit and not what's important. What is hurting us as workers? What is hurting us as the proletariat? And in my opinion, that's moderators. I know it's not the only thing hurting us. I know that if all moderators are gone tomorrow, that's not going to stop big business. That's not going to stop the banking cartel. That's not going to stop the creditors. That's not going to stop the pharmaceutical companies. That's not going to stop, this big media outlet that feeds us a bunch of lies. That's not going to stop Fox News or McDonald's or anything. But it will make the internet freer. And when the internet is freer, we will be freer. Because we will have better press. We will have better associations with people. We will communicate and organize. That is our tool. And that tool is being compromised by the moderator bourgeoisie. So that's why I focus on them. Now, you might disagree that those are the bourgeoisie to target out of every institution out there that is an enemy. But then disagree with me on it in a platform that makes sense. Disagree with me on it on a moral level rather than this abstract, you're not a real communist, blah, 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 just bullshit heresy level that is like Warhammer 40k Space Marines. Because unfortunately, we're not Space Marines. We're not 20 feet tall, hulky masses of metal with huge bolter pistols. We're normal human beings. And we have limited accessibility, we have limited abilities, and, the law is just looking for any excuse to come down on us, and people are vicious assholes. We can't even trust the people around us. So, let's worry about the shit here and now, instead of trying to be a goddamn Space Marine. So, I guess that's it.